I never thought a simple Friday night would change everything. My name's James, and just 4 weeks ago I found myself caught in a humiliating storm, orchestrated by the woman I thought loved me. My wife, Emily. She'd been buzzing all week about having her friends over for what she called ladies' night, but I was planning to slip out, maybe catch up with my brother Ben or hit the gym. Freedom, right? But at 6 sharp, Emily caught me heading for the door. "Actually, would you mind staying?" she asked, that smile curling up like she'd already made the decision for me. "The girls want to do something fun. You're part of it." I hesitated. Emily's friends had always rubbed me the wrong way. There was Bella, the ringleader, twice divorced, carrying an air like men were a species she'd rather avoid. Hannah, the serial dater who treated every relationship like a new season of a TV show to binge and discard. And then there was Quinn, the youngest, engaged but constantly griping about her fiancé, as if he were a defective gadget. Together they formed this toxic echo chamber that had a way of bringing out the worst in Emily. But 6 years of marriage had made me the guy who swallowed his pride, the good sport, the one who played along to keep the peace. So I agreed. At 7 p.m. they arrived. Wine in hand, appetizers, all air kisses and compliments about our house in a quiet corner of Brighton. We'd bought it 3 years ago, mostly on my inheritance, but Emily loved telling people we decorated it together. Truth was, I mostly nodded along and let her have her way. By 7:30, Bella cleared her throat like she was about to announce the Queen's speech. "So, we have a special event tonight. James, you're the guest of honor." My stomach dropped. Guest of honor? What? Was this a roast? Hannah squealed, Comedy Central style. Emily grinned like she'd just invented the wheel. "You're such a good sport. We thought it'd be hilarious." Every instinct screamed, "Run!" But 4 pairs of expectant eyes glued me to the couch. I smiled. "Great. Let's get started." At first it was harmless banter, jokes about how I organized the garage like a librarian on overtime, my boring coffee order, black, no sugar, and my collection of vintage football memorabilia. The room laughed. I laughed. I was playing the part. But 15 minutes in, something shifted. James's idea of living dangerously? Using full-fat milk instead of oat, Bella announced, and the room exploded. Emily laughed so hard tears glistened in her eyes. Hannah leaned forward. "Seriously, Emily, how do you put up with someone this dull?" "My ex was adventurous. James makes him look like James Bond." More laughter. I kept my smile fixed, but it was getting harder. Quinn jumped in, encouraged by the others. "How does it feel knowing you're the backup plan turned permanent? Like Emily could have had anyone?" The jokes kept coming. Snide remarks about my career, barbs about my masculinity, and thinly veiled jabs at our private life that made my skin crawl. And through it all, Emily laughed, loudest at the cruelest jokes. 45 minutes in, Bella delivered her masterpiece. "Emily tells us, you're adequate in bed. Honestly, that's the most enthusiastic she's ever been about you." The room erupted. Emily doubled over, clutching her stomach, eyes locking with mine across the coffee table. She saw my face and laughed harder. Something inside me went quiet, calm. They carried on for another 15 minutes. When the laughter finally started to die down after a full hour, I stood slowly. Silence dropped like a guillotine. I walked to the coffee table, picked up my phone, held it where everyone could see. "Thanks for the material," I said, voice steady. "My lawyer will love this recording." Confused glances, nervous chuckles. I looked at Emily. "And your friends can help you find a new place since they're so good at advice." Dead silence. Then Hannah stammered, "Wait, were you actually recording?" "Every single word," I said. "Timestamp, too." Bella jumped up, defensive. You can't record people without permission. It's illegal. Colorado's a one-party consent state, I replied calmly. I'm the one party. You all consented by speaking. It's legal. Emily's face went pale. James, what are you doing? You're embarrassing me. I almost laughed. I'm embarrassing you? Interesting. Her friends started talking over each other. It's just jokes. You're too sensitive. This is so typical. I raised my hand. I don't care what you think. But Emily, you have until tomorrow night to decide. Apologize or pack your things. I walked upstairs, locked the door behind me. Muffled arguing drifted up. Friends telling Emily I was overreacting, that I'd come around, that they'd done nothing wrong. Eventually, the voices faded as they left. Around 11 p.m., Emily tried the door. James, please. We'll talk tomorrow after you've had time to think, I said. She walked away. I sat on the bed's edge and realized my hands weren't shaking. I wasn't angry or hurt. I just felt clear, clearer than in years. The next morning, I emerged from our bedroom around 9, expecting the awkward silence of a truce, or at least something resembling it. Instead, Emily was waiting in the kitchen, her eyes bright with a forced calm, a cup of coffee precariously balanced between her fingers. She wore a soft, cream-colored cashmere sweater that hugged her slender frame, the sleeves pushed up just enough to reveal delicate silver bangles, clinking softly as she gestured. Her dark jeans fit snugly, and on her feet were those sleek black ankle boots, the ones she always said made her feel unstoppable. Today, though, they looked like armor. I know you're upset, she began, voice silky but brittle. But it wasn't that bad. It was just a roast. You laughed, didn't you? I stared at her, feeling the weight of last night's silence pressing down. That's the point of a roast, I said slowly. Everyone knows it's not serious. She set down her coffee cup with a sharp clink that echoed too loudly in the room. Then why did every joke feel like something you actually believed? It was a good question, one I'd avoided asking myself for years. Emily's eyes narrowed. You're really going to blow this out of proportion over some jokes. By 10:30, we were standing on opposite sides of the kitchen island, the morning light catching the glint of her diamond engagement ring, the one she never wore now, and I laid it out. Here's what needs to happen. You apologize. Genuinely. You tell your friends they crossed a line, and we establish real boundaries about respect. Otherwise, you want me to apologize? Her voice shot up, sharp and incredulous. They're going to think I'm whipped. I took a breath, steadying myself. I want you to choose our marriage over your friends' opinions. She slammed her hand down on the counter, the sound like a gavel. You're acting like I cheated or something. They humiliated me. Publicly. Emily's eyes flashed. They're my friends. I'm your wife. Or I was. I froze. What does that mean? It means you have until 6 tonight to decide what matters more. I left the house, the front door clicking shut like a verdict. I drove to Brighton's Smith Lake, found a bench shaded by the old oaks, and just sat. The water shimmered under the afternoon sun, but my mind was elsewhere, counting the times I'd swallowed the barbs, the quiet sidelining, the moments I'd made myself small so Emily could shine. I pulled out my phone and called Ben. Hey, little brother, he answered, cheerful. I need a lawyer, I said. There was a pause. What happened? I told him everything. When I finished, he was quiet. Then, Jesus, James, an hour of that, while laughing. I nodded. I have the whole thing recorded. That might come in handy, Ben said carefully. How are you feeling? Clear, I said. Clearer than I've felt in years. Good. I'll get you some recommendations. We'll figure this out. At 6, I returned home. Emily sat on the couch, scrolling her phone, the soft glow highlighting the tired lines under her eyes. I could tell she'd spent the day texting, probably rallying her troops instead of reflecting. She stood slowly. "I've been thinking. Maybe you should apologize to my friends." I blinked. "Excuse me? You ruined our night, made a huge scene. They feel attacked." "They feel attacked?" I echoed, voice low. "Yes, they do." Her voice rose. "Honestly, if you can't take a joke, maybe we need to rethink things." Something clicked. "I agree. Start packing." Her face drained of color as she realized I wasn't bluffing. "You can't be serious. Where am I supposed to go?" "Your friends are so supportive. Maybe one of them will take you in." Tears welled up, but no apology came. I helped her pack, calm while she oscillated between sobs and fury. "You're really doing this?" she asked, dragging her suitcase by the handle. "Because you chose to humiliate me and then defend it," I said. She left just after 8, heading to Bella's loft downtown. I watched her car disappear, then closed the door and stood in the sudden, profound silence of the house. For the first time in years, I felt peace. That first night alone, sleep was elusive. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, but not in the way Emily probably expected. I wasn't twisting over doubts or regrets. No, I was remembering. I thought back to our third date at that cozy Italian place in Hove, where Emily had made a joke about my shirt in front of the waiter. It was a subtle dig, the kind meant to sting under the guise of humor. I laughed it off then, trying to convince myself it was nothing. I remembered our first Christmas together, sitting awkwardly by the fire in her parents' Tudor-style home in Cotswold. Emily had introduced me to her family as adequately employed, a phrase that was met with chuckles but landed like a punch in my gut. I smiled through it, swallowing the sharp taste of inadequacy. And the promotion I'd missed 2 years ago. Instead of support, Emily had said, "Maybe if you were more assertive at work," while her friends nodded along like they were the board of directors passing judgment on my worth. How many moments like that had I buried beneath a smile? How many small cuts had I swallowed to keep the peace? The roast wasn't the beginning. It was the breaking point. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Emily, from Bella's loft. Are you awake?" I stared at the message, fingers hovering. "Yes. Can't sleep. This feels wrong." "What feels wrong?" "Us being apart over something so stupid." I sat up, blinking against the dark. "Emily, do you actually think it was stupid, or are you just saying that?" 3 little dots appeared and disappeared, flickering like a heartbeat. "I think you're hurt, and I get that, but you're making this bigger than it needs to be." There it was, the old familiar dismissal. Even now she was making my feelings the problem. "Good night, Emily," I typed, then switched off my phone. Sleep finally came. Sunday morning dawned clearer than it had in years. Emily's texts came through overnight, the tone shifting from tentative to sharp. "I hope you've calmed down and are ready to talk like adults." I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I drove to Willow and Bean, a little coffee shop tucked away on Old Market Street, a place I'd passed 100 times but never entered. I needed somewhere free from the ghosts of Emily. As I reached for a vacant table, a woman's voice stopped me. "Looks like we had the same idea." She was around 30 with dark curls pulled into a loose ponytail, dressed in sleek running gear that hugged her athletic frame. A silver pendant glinted at her collarbone, and her eyes held a mix of warmth and quiet strength. We exchanged a smile and agreed to share the table. "I'm Rachel," she said, extending a hand. "James." Escaping something or just enjoying the quiet? Her directness caught me off guard. "That obvious?" "I've been coming here every morning for 3 months since my breakup," she said, her smile tinged with understanding. We talked for an hour. She was an architect. freshly single after ending a long relationship where her ex had tried to mold her into someone quieter, less opinionated, more agreeable. "My ex wanted me to be a prop," she said, sipping her latte. "It's exhausting pretending to be smaller than you are." I felt the weight of those words settle deep. Someone who'd just go along with whatever she wanted. Rachel nodded knowingly. "It's like shrinking to fit into a space that was never meant for you." When we exchanged numbers, she grinned. "Coffee refugees." For the first time in days, I smiled back. Monday morning found me sitting across from Ben in his office on High Street, the sunlight filtering through the tall windows and casting long shadows on the polished mahogany desk. He'd already listened to the recording I'd sent him, his jaw tight as he shook his head. "This is brutal, James," he said quietly. "Any reasonable person would understand why you left." I nodded, trying to keep the lump in my throat from rising. "I need to know my options." Ben pulled out a folder thick with paperwork. "There's a 90-day waiting period for divorce here in Sussex. You own the house, both names on the deed, but since you paid the down payment with family money, we'll need to gather financial records, bank statements, credit cards, everything." He slid a pen across the desk. "Start documenting everything." As I left his office, my phone buzzed. Texts from Emily, their tone shifting from conciliatory to biting. "You're being childish. Bella says I should just let you cool off. How long are you going to punish me?" I paused, then replied once. "I'm not punishing you, I'm protecting myself." Tuesday morning I met Rachel again at Willow and Bean. She waved from a corner table, the morning sun catching the highlights in her hair. I promised not to steal her usual seat this time. Our conversation dug deeper. She asked what I was escaping from, and I gave her a broad outline, careful not to spill all the details. "Let me guess," she said with a knowing smile. "She told you you were overreacting." "Word for word." "They always do," Rachel said softly. "My ex told me I was too sensitive when his friends made fun of my career, like my feelings were the problem, not their behavior. I felt something I hadn't in years. Understood. Wednesday afternoon brought an unexpected visit. Emily showed up at the house while I was there, dressed in a soft blue blouse that clung just enough to remind me of the woman I'd fallen for, paired with a pencil skirt and those familiar black heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Her makeup was subtle, but the eyes were tired, pleading. She tried a different approach, seduction mixed with nostalgia. "Remember when we were happy?" she asked, voice low. "We can get back to that." I studied her, wondering if we'd ever truly been happy, or if I'd just been compliant. "Were we happy?" I asked. Her face hardened. "Why are you being like this? I barely recognize you." "Maybe you never really knew me," I said quietly. She left angrier than she arrived, the door clicking shut behind her like a final verdict. Thursday evening, Rachel and I had dinner at the Lantern, a cozy little spot near the river with exposed brick walls and flickering candles. It felt like a real first date. "I'm going to be direct," she said over appetizers, her eyes locking with mine. "I like you, but I need to know this isn't a rebound." I smiled wryly. "Honestly, I don't know what this is yet, but I know I feel more like myself around you than I have in years." "That's fair," she said, her smile softening. "Take your time figuring it out." Then, with a mischievous glint, she added, "But don't let her make you doubt yourself. Trust what you know is true." Walking through the lantern-lit streets after dinner, the high ceilings of the old railway station behind us felt symbolic, like a gateway to something new. Possibility. Friday, Quinn saw Rachel and me dining and texted Emily immediately. The angry messages began flooding in. "Are you seriously dating already?" I responded simply. "We're separated. You made your choice. I want to come home. You've had a week to apologize. You haven't. I'm not apologizing for my friends being funny. Then we have nothing to discuss. By the following week, I needed to burn off some of the tension that had been building like steam in a kettle. I headed to the gym near Brighton's seafront, the one I'd stopped going to regularly because Emily always had plans on my usual workout nights. The place was buzzing with the usual mix of early risers and lunchtime warriors. I was halfway through a rowing machine session when a familiar voice called out, "James, is that you?" I turned to see Tom Reynolds, an old colleague from my previous job before Emily convinced me to take a safer, less stressful position at a local firm. Tom was tall with a weathered face that told stories of hard work and hard living. He smiled warmly, though there was a flicker of concern in his eyes. "How's married life?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I must have made a face because his grin faded. "That good, huh?" We grabbed protein shakes afterward at the cafe next door. I gave him the abbreviated version, careful not to drown in the details. Tom shook his head. "Jesus, an hour and 3 minutes of that? And Emily thought it was hilarious?" He leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "You remember when I got divorced 5 years ago?" I nodded. Everyone thought Michelle cheated. It wasn't that. He met my eyes. She made me feel small every single day. Little comments, little jabs, always in front of people, always played off as jokes. The word hit me like cold water. "I don't know if I'd call it abuse," I said hesitantly. "What would you call it then?" Tom asked. "Someone who's supposed to love you, orchestrating your public humiliation." He gave a slow, deliberate nod. It took me 3 years of therapy to realize that was abuse. The weight of it settled deep in my chest. "Look, I'm not telling you what to do," Tom said, "but I wasted 3 years trying to fix something broken from the start. Don't make my mistake." By Monday of the second week, the divorce papers were officially filed. Ben handled everything with professional efficiency, but also with the kindness of a brother, which I realized I needed more than I'd admitted. That evening, Ben invited me over for dinner. His wife, Kelly, had made lasagna, and their 2 kids were already tucked in bed. The house smelled of garlic and fresh bread, a comforting counterpoint to the chaos in my life. "How are you really holding up?" Kelly asked, pouring wine into my glass. "Better than I expected." "Worse than I'd like," I admitted. Ben sat across from me, swirling his glass thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about something. Do you remember Mom and Dad fighting when we were kids?" "Not really. They always seemed solid." "Exactly," Ben said. "They disagreed, sure. But Dad never put Mom down, and Mom never made Dad the butt of a joke in front of friends." Kelly nodded. "That's what partnership looks like. You can disagree, but you don't diminish each other." "Emily diminished you," Ben said quietly. "Probably for years. We all saw it, but you seemed happy, so we didn't say anything." That stung. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because it wasn't our place," he said. "And honestly, we hoped you'd see it yourself." Ben refilled my glass. "I'm sorry we didn't speak up sooner." "Would I have listened?" Kelly asked gently. "Probably not," I said. "Nobody wants to hear their marriage is broken. We usually have to figure it out ourselves." I stayed until almost midnight, and when I left, I felt less alone than I had in years. The cracks in Emily's friend group began showing almost immediately. Quinn was the first to waver, her texts less sharp, tinged with guilt. Hannah encouraged Emily to make me pay, stoking the fire instead of cooling it. Bella, as usual, was convinced I was having some kind of crisis and would come crawling back. One afternoon, Emily screenshot their group chat and sent it to me. I wasn't sure what she hoped to achieve, proof of their loyalty, or just more ammunition. Tuesday, Rachel and I visited the Brighton Contemporary Gallery. The space was airy, whitewashed, with bold splashes of color from the abstract art. She told me more about her ex, how he wanted her quieter, less opinionated, more agreeable. "It's exhausting pretending to be smaller than you are," she said, tracing the edge of a canvas with her finger. I forgot what it felt like not to, I admitted. We stayed until closing, standing in front of a chaotic, swirling painting that somehow felt like the perfect metaphor for my life. Rachel turned to me. "Can I tell you something I learned in therapy?" "Of course." "My ex used to say I was too much, too opinionated, too ambitious, too intense. For 2 years I tried to be less. I turned down promotions because they threatened him. I stopped sharing my opinions at dinner parties because he punished me with silence afterward. I made myself smaller and smaller until I barely recognized who I was." She looked back at the painting. "One day, my therapist asked me, if someone told you your laugh was too loud, would you stop laughing?" And I realized I had. I'd stopped laughing because he didn't like how I sounded. "When did you leave?" "About a month after that session." He was shocked, kept saying he didn't understand what changed. She laughed, but it was a sad laugh. "I spent 2 years changing everything about myself, and he didn't even notice." Emily noticed when I changed. I told Rachel, she just thought I was being difficult because she liked me compliant. Rachel's eyes softened. "The question is, who do you want to be?" I thought about that for a long time. I want to be someone who doesn't apologize for taking up space. "Good," Rachel said, smiling, "because I like you exactly as big as you are." Wednesday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a call from my mum. Emily's mother had apparently reached out, concerned that I was being unreasonable. "What really happened?" she asked gently. I played her a clip from the recording. When it finished, there was silence on the other end. "Oh, James," she said quietly, "I'm so sorry. No one should treat you like that." Her words hit me harder than I expected. That validation from my own family meant more than I'd realized. Thursday evening, Emily tried a surprise visit. I'd changed the locks the day before. She banged on the door, shouting, "It's my house, too." I opened the door calmly, holding up the divorce papers. "Ben sent you the paperwork. It's all legal." Her eyes flicked to Rachel's car parked down the street. Her face flushed crimson. "Is she here?" "Who I spend time with isn't your business anymore." Friday brought a call from Emily's sister, Olivia. "She's a mess," Olivia said. "Says you've moved on already." "I've moved forward," I said. "There's a difference." "She thinks you're trying to hurt her." "I'm trying to protect myself." I told Olivia about the recording. She paused. "James, I had no idea it was that bad." Emily thought it was hilarious. Olivia didn't know what to say to that. That same morning, I did something I'd been avoiding. I went through our wedding album. There we were, 6 years ago. Emily looked radiant in her lace gown, hair cascading in soft waves, makeup flawless. I looked happy, but as I turned the pages, I noticed things I'd missed. In a photo with her friends, Emily was laughing at something Bella said. I stood slightly apart, my smile not quite reaching my eyes. At the reception, Emily's father gave a toast, joking about me punching above my weight class. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but my hand gripped the champagne glass so tightly my knuckles were white. There were dozens of photos of Emily with her friends, dancing, glowing in the center of attention. But only a handful showed us together, genuine moments, rare and fleeting. I thought we were building a life. But looking at those pictures, I realized I'd been a supporting character in Emily's story all along. I closed the album and packed it away in a box in the garage. Not thrown out, but no longer on display. That weekend, Rachel invited me hiking at the South Downs. Standing on the cliff edge at sunset, the sea stretching endlessly before us, she turned to me. "I need to know," she said softly. "Are you over her?" I'm over who I thought she was. I'm over who I became trying to make her happy. That's not quite the same as being over her. No, but I know I don't want that life anymore. And I want to see where this goes with you. That's enough for now. She kissed me then, and it felt like the first honest thing that had happened in years. On Monday afternoon, Emily sent a long, emotional text. She said she'd been thinking, maybe hadn't appreciated what we had, and wanted to meet face to face. I agreed. Tuesday, 2 o'clock, Willow and Bean Coffee Shop. She arrived looking worn, eyes red-rimmed, dressed in a soft gray knit sweater that hugged her curves just enough to remind me of the woman I'd once loved, paired with skinny jeans and those familiar black ankle boots clicking softly as she walked in. Her hair was pulled back loosely, a few strands escaping to frame her pale face. "I miss you," she said quietly. "I miss us." I searched her eyes. "Do you miss me, or do you miss what I provided?" "That's not fair," she whispered. "You let your friends tear me apart for an hour. You laughed. When I asked for an apology, you told me to apologize to them." "I was wrong about that," Emily admitted, tears welling. "I should have defended you." "Should have. You still haven't actually apologized." "I'm apologizing now. Because you're facing consequences, not because you understand why it was wrong." She broke down, sobbing. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. Not anymore." Later that evening, Emily left a voicemail. I almost deleted it without listening, but something made me press play. Her voice was different, harder, angrier, probably drunk. "You know what your problem is, James? You were always too sensitive. My friends were right about you from the start. Bella told me you were weak, but I defended you. I said you were just thoughtful. What a joke. You're not thoughtful. You're a coward who can't handle the truth. And now you're running off with some random woman because you can't deal with reality. Well, fine. Go ahead. She'll figure out what you really are soon enough. Everyone always does. You're boring, James. You've always been boring. And when she gets bored too, don't come crying back to me." The message ended. I sat there, stunned. But instead of feeling hurt, I felt relief. This was the truth she'd been hiding behind jokes and manipulation. This was who she really was. When Rachel came over, I played it for her. Her face hardened with every word. "That's who she really is," I said when it ended. "That's what she's always thought." "James," Rachel said gently, "that's not about you. That's about her." "I know, but I needed to hear it, to stop wondering if I'd made a mistake." She took my phone and deleted the voicemail. "You didn't. And you never will." On Thursday, Quinn reached out to me privately. Her message was short but heavy. "I need to tell you something. The roast was Bella's idea. She planned it for weeks." My blood ran cold. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it's eating me alive. We went too far, and Emily, she knew. She thought it would be funny. She told Bella what topics were okay." I sat in my car, the weight of that confession pressing down hard. Emily hadn't just allowed it, she'd orchestrated it. "I'm so sorry," Quinn said. "I couldn't keep it in any longer." I screenshot the conversation and sent it to Ben. When I told Rachel, her expression darkened. "That's worse than just going along with it. It confirms you made the right choice." That weekend, the friend group imploded. Emily found out Quinn had talked to me. Quinn apologized publicly and stepped away. Hannah and Bella turned on Emily, furious she'd let Quinn betray them. Desperate texts flooded in from Emily. I didn't respond. Sunday morning I was at the grocery store when my card literally bumped into Bella's. We froze, eyes locking instantly. "Well," she said, voice dripping with disdain, "if it isn't the man who can't take a joke." I looked her in the eye, calm but firm. "Bella, you ruined everything. Emily's a mess because of you, because she chose to humiliate her husband and then refused to apologize. She stepped closer, trying to intimidate. It was a roast, a joke. You're acting like we committed a crime. You spent an hour tearing someone down in their own home. What would you call that? Fun. Entertainment. Something you clearly don't understand. I almost laughed. You know what I find entertaining? Watching your friend group fall apart because Quinn finally developed a conscience. Her face flushed. Quinn is weak, just like you. No, Bella. Quinn is honest. There's a difference. I started to push my cart past her, then stopped. By the way, how long until Emily wears out her welcome at your place? I give it another week before you're sick of her, too. I left her standing there, speechless. In the car, my hands shook, not from fear, but from the rush of finally standing up to someone who'd made me feel small for years. Monday of the 4th week, Emily showed up at my workplace, causing a scene in the parking lot. Her voice was sharp, desperate. You've poisoned everyone against me. I met her gaze steadily. I've told people the truth when asked. That's not poison. She snapped back. Quinn had no right to tell you about the planning. So you admit you planned it? Her expression faltered. That's not what I meant, I turned and walked away while she continued to speak, words trailing off behind me. That afternoon, I packed up the last of Emily's belongings from the house. In the back of her closet, I found a shoebox filled with notes and cards from her friends. Mostly harmless, birthday wishes, thank yous. But near the bottom was a folded piece of paper in Bella's handwriting. Hey, you're too good for him. When are you going to wake up and realize you settled? You could have had anyone. Instead, you got Mr. Safe and boring. Life's too short, babe. Think about what you really want. B. The note was dated 2 years ago. There were others, Hannah's handwriting asking, does he ever surprise you, or is it always the same predictable routine? Quinn's more recent, I know you love him, but do you respect him? There's a difference. Sitting on the bedroom floor, surrounded by Emily's things, I read the evidence that her friends had been poisoning our marriage for years, and she had let them. No, worse, she had agreed with them. I packed it all into boxes, sealed them, and called a storage company. I wanted every trace of that life gone. Tuesday, Ben called. Emily's lawyer was trying to negotiate. She wanted the house. Not happening, Ben said. We have the financial records showing your inheritance paid the down payment. Her attorneys grasping at straws. Wednesday, my mum hosted dinner for Rachel and me. Meeting the parents felt significant but also right. Thank you, Mum said to Rachel, for reminding my son what he deserves. He figured that out himself, Rachel replied. I'm just glad to be part of what comes next. Thursday, Emily somehow got into the house using the garage code I hadn't changed. She was waiting inside when I got home. How did you get in? I still live here. No, you don't. You're trespassing. I'm your wife. Not for much longer. She broke down. I'll change. I'll cut them off. I'll do anything. It's too late. Even if you meant it, which you don't, it's too late. Friday was the final confrontation. Emily refused to leave when I asked. Rachel came to pick me up for dinner and walked into the situation. Emily turned on her. This is your fault. You destroyed my marriage. Rachel stayed calm. I met him after you destroyed it yourself. Emily looked at me. You're choosing her over me. I'm choosing self-respect over humiliation. There's no contest. 6 years together, she said. How many times did you make me feel small? How many jokes at my expense? How many times did your friends matter more than I did? She couldn't answer. That night wasn't the beginning, I said. It was the first time I refused to pretend it was okay. I called the police for trespassing. Didn't press charges, just wanted her gone. That weekend, Rachel helped me redecorate parts of the house. Make it mine again, she said. Or maybe mine for the first time. "How are you really feeling?" she asked. "Lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for years, and finally put it down." Emily sent one last series of texts. "I hope you're happy." "I'm getting there," I replied. "You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner." When this falls apart with her, don't come crying to me. "I won't need to. Thanks for confirming you still don't get it." I blocked her number. 3 months later, the 90-day waiting period was over. I sat in Ben's office as the divorce was finalized. Settlement reached. I keep the house. Emily gets half the other marital assets. Fair, but not generous. No spousal support since we were married under 10 years. Clean break. Walking down the courthouse steps, Rachel was waiting. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like the last piece of something old falling away. Ready for something new?" "I think I've been building something new for months. I'm just ready to keep going." As I reached for my car keys, I thought about everything I'd learned. Being a good sport isn't the same as being respected. Being understanding isn't the same as being valued. And being alone is better than being with someone who needs you small to feel big. That recording, the one I made that night, I never gave it to my lawyer. Didn't need to. But I kept it. Not for revenge, not for ammunition. As a reminder, the moment someone shows you who they really are, even if they're laughing while they do it, you should believe them. Emily is still out there somewhere, probably telling people I'm the villain. That I overreacted. That I couldn't take a joke. You know what? I'm fine with that, because I'm not in her story anymore. I'm writing my own. Stay tuned.